Please welcome Sherry Williams and Scott Wiest.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. The fact that you're here on the last morning to Discover, bright and early, indicates that virtualization is top of mind for you. And you might be looking at what your strategy is and what options might be available to you. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some insights into what we're doing in that area as part of this session. So I want to ask a couple questions just to make sure we keep everybody's awake and engaged. How many of you have, and I have a hard time seeing with the lights, how many of you have renewed a contract for 3 years and are looking to figure out what you're going to do at the end of those 3 years?
Oh, good amount.
Quite a few hands. You're in good company. There's quite a few people in that situation. Another question for you is, as you're looking at that, how many of you are actually really understand your entire ecosystem end to end, including the automation and scripting that you need to address in your transition? Yeah, okay. All right, very insightful, so thank you.
Thank you.
You are, again, not alone in that. And what we have today, my colleague Scott Wiest is here to give you some insights into CIOs that he's spoken to, more than 868 at this point.
Yes, thank you.
And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Scott. But first, can you share with everybody what your role is and what you've been up to, and then we'll dive into the questions.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry, and I want to add my welcome. Hi, I'm Scott Wiest. I'm the Chief Technologist for Global Sales. What that really translates into, I cover every product, every solution, but more importantly, every customer segment and every geo. And so my role is about helping you solve hard challenges, helping you write your future, helping you innovate, helping you move to an efficient space. And this just happens to be one of those catalyst subjects that everyone is affected by. So thank you, Sherry. And welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us, as Sherry said, on a session on Thursday.
So, okay, so let's dive in. So let's start with sort of the big picture.
Sure.
What kinds of customers have you been talking to? And what does that tell us about how widespread this problem really is?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. My discussions, and it's funny, the title does represent some reality, although it's well north of 1,200 companies now. This started about 6 months before the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom. Folks just trying to figure out what they should do as a whole. I think other folks were already thinking about what their virtualization 3.0 strategy was going to be. What do they containerize? What the mix is? What are you going to do in public cloud? So that was already underway. And then after the acquisition, everyone really looked at, how big of a problem this was going to be them from a commercial perspective, from an emotional perspective, from a tooling, from an operational perspective. So it started out really with, I would have calls from very large enterprises asking me to come and talk to them about alternate hypervisors. And I would always respond with, you mean alternate ecosystem, correct? Because it's really not about a hypervisor, I think we would all know. And so it started out with the big list of customers that were on the strategic list, the folks most affected, the folks that are VCF for the highway. But it very quickly came to every segment, every industry, every size, commercial customers, medium customers, mid-enterprises, large enterprise, global accounts. Everyone was somewhere along the journey, and I found that no one was at the same place, and everyone had a different set of decisions to make. So that's kind of how it started. We continue to have those conversations. They're ongoing. Every single meeting I had here involved a discussion around automation that you talked about, around new landing zones, what I should do for future workloads, and how do I not get caught again, and how do I not be locked.
So what are some of the common threads or themes you're hearing from the customers, regardless of where they are in their journey?
Common threads, I mean, there's extreme edges to this. Folks that are have emotion in it, right? Because I think all of us would know that sitting in this room that uses VMware, it's not a technology problem. It's a very solid stack. It's very mature. It has lots of feature richness. Folks have relied on it for production capabilities for a really long time. But folks don't like the commercial part of it. They don't like the spirit of it. They don't like the lock-in part of it, and they want flexibility to be able to move and do what they need to do. But at the same time, a common theme is these would all start out with help us define future landing zones, sort of surround what I have, minimize my risk, because it's all about risk mitigation here. But all of them, every single conversation I've done would then gravitate, how do I complete my automation agenda? And in a perfect world, could I drive towards IT service brokering, so cloud stack? And so it starts out as I need to do something about vSphere, and then moves on to come talk to me about, is Hyper-V the right choice? Is it Nutanix? Is it Red Hat OCP? Is it a KVM derivative like VM Essentials? And so it really is, there's no one size fits all. That's what I would tell you. I would offer to you the shocking part for me personally, after talking to almost 1,200 companies, I expected deep adoption of NSXT microsegmentation, and found out that was absolutely not the case, that everybody used rigid firewall rules. Not everybody, but a bulk of folks. So folks were already kind of caught in a non-agile environment to be able to deliver fast workloads, right? So this conversation is not about just alternatives to VMware, it's about could you deliver and take the next big leap to deliver highly automated, high repeatable, also automated remediated workloads, and do it in the next way. So this became a new conversation that we've seen. It started out emotional, then became what's the art of the possible. So it's been really a great conversation, not on the tough customer part that they're facing a problem, but on what is possible next. And you can see, I think you'll see in this conference that Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, HPE, has risen to the occasion to be able to help customers on this journey.
I think the NSX insight is incredibly interesting, and it really reflects some of the conversations I've seen too, so that's interesting. Now, we introduced VM Essentials a few months ago. How has that changed the conversations you're having with customers?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think everyone is looking for a company like HPE that's got global reach, that has incredible engineering prowess, that is also customer focused around driving complexity out and simplicity in. And so VME, in the beginning it was like, what are you doing? Are you coming into the hypervisor space? Are you going to be able to mature fast enough? And very quickly, as Fidelma's team drove engineering on this product as well as acquisitions in this space, we've leaped really fast to get folks to a very much more comfortable space of that it's a really solid alternative that's got great roadmap, that delivers on a lot of different fronts, not just a better hypervisor. So I think it's been quite an interesting journey. So to your point, December was the official GA, so not very long, just around 6 months, and we're in a really good spot. And so after hundreds and hundreds of customers looking at it, testing it, evaluating it against other mature solutions, I think you'll have some really good confidence in what our organization's been able to do. So, been a great conversation. I did actually expect folks to have a bit of pushback on KVM-based solutions, but every conversation I've had is a full embrace. There wasn't any like, I need type 1 hypervisors or any of that kind of stuff. So I haven't really found objections to the technology part. It was more about, are you guys mature enough now? Do you have the integration with backup and recovery and all that? And I think you'll see that our roadmap has that in place.
Absolutely, and hopefully you're able to attend the session on Tuesday in which we spoke to some of that, and if not, we're happy to answer some of those questions later as well. So Scott, some of the teams obviously are still weighing their options.
Yep.
And we saw that, the raise of hands. For those who've actually put a plan in place, they're moving forward, what are they doing differently, or what are they doing that's enabled them to create those plans?
I think a few things I've noticed, there's sort of technical differentiation that folks have made choices on. I was always surprised with organizations who had low subscription rates on vCPUs within VMware, because, and folks will relate to this, folks either have a fault domain they're not willing to go above, or what some folks call a blast radius. I found that folks that have adopted these new solutions are, because they have confidence in the ability to highly automate, they're willing to vastly oversubscribe. So get a lot more density out of the solutions, use the technology from Intel and AMD to get there, and our great line of servers and our great line of private cloud solutions. So that's one I've noticed. Folks literally willing to go 50% more density than they were willing to do on VMware or Hyper-V or any other solution you could name to try to drive what we've done in all the other technology. We all use data reduction and oversubscription on arrays for a really long time. We do it everywhere else. So I think that's a big change I've seen. I've also found folks willing to embrace the solution within its capabilities. One thing that's a really common conversation, and there's companies here that I've even spoke to about it, is it allowed them to like clearly go in and figure out tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 apps and what they needed for each of them. Where it was kind of a little bit loose before of like which one needs 8-day business resumption all the way through. Should I rehydrate the app rather than try to fix it? And so it reopened the conversation on what beyond VM vending is what I'm saying, to drive true cloud automation with multiple landing zones underneath, whether it's an on-prem or in a colo, and also the ability to move between hybrid locations, between hyperscalers and beyond. So it's like I would describe it as virtualization 3.0. We're like in a new era to look at it differently than we've all been doing it for a really long time, including our internal organizations.
I've been calling it virtualization transformation.
Oh, I love that.
So
that's better than 3.0.
So is great as well.
That's awesome.
So Scott, when customers do choose HPE, what stands out in that decision?
I think what stands out, and I've had, and folks all know in this room, there's lots of alternatives on the market that sound wonderful. They may have an incredible UI, they may sound great. Remember, these things are really hard. You need deep hardware engineering, you need deep software engineering, you need to be able to test and certify, and you need global support. I've talked to a few companies that were going to choose alternate solutions because their go-to-market premise was that they're hardware independent and they work on everything. And that's all fine until you have a CrowdStrike moment. And we've introduced a brand new Gen 12 with a new UFE and a new Marvell adapter, and you've got a purple screen of death. That's not solvable without hardware. So you need deep global support, but you also need a deep bench of engineering, but you also need, I think, companies that are committed to solving customer challenges on all the pieces, not just one small segment. Because we're not just solving for virtualization, we're solving along a long continuum here all the way through, from cyber resiliency to automation to cloud, multi-stack, multi-generation. And all of those things I think matter to customers. It's easy to get caught in the one thing that's affecting me right now. But if you can move up and look beyond it, you can drive like your 2, 3, 4, 5-year journey. And that's really where the conversations I've went to since the reaction, what am I going to do, to what should I do?
And is there an element of a partnership and a trust factor that plays into that as well?
Absolutely, I believe that's the case. I think fundamentally folks trust HPE. We do what we say. We commit to what we're going to do. And we've always leaned in to be customer-centric. And I think in all the conversations I've had too, it's about empathy for the complex challenges. All of you guys have a bucket of stuff that's runneth over with complexity. So you need to trust us to help you solve some of the complex things, and that's about trust. And it's about a company that's got global reach, and it's got a company that's got a pedigree of deep innovation and engineering. And so all those things come together. It's not just one thing, because it's easy to go in and talk to a customer about something, but they need to feel it. Because this isn't out-of-band solutions, right? This is run your company. So it becomes like, we know that, we take that super seriously, we're committed to it, and I think folks can feel that with what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody's going to head home today or tomorrow, back to reality, and if they're still kind of struggling of where to get started, what do you recommend?
I think I would recommend to everybody to have a conversation. Have a conversation with someone in HPE, or if a partner servicing you or an SI servicing you, in concert with us to explore the options in an open, transparent way to determine where you're at, what's possible, and how you do it in phases, right? Because what I found during this journey too of talking to so many customers, I've got ones right now I had to sort of give a little bit of tough love to because their renewal's in October. So this isn't like you just move. And other folks that got a bit of a runway, your original question, if you've renewed, folks have renewed, but they're already 1.5 years in. So you need to start planning for the moment. Are you going to surround it? Are you going to renew? Are you going to enhance? Because remember, the automation agenda's in here too. If you're using ARIA, VRA, VRO, if you're using Site Recovery Manager, what are you doing in those pieces? So it's not about just the hypervisor, it's about the ecosystem, and plan effectively for that. And what we find too is some folks will have a certain solution for VDI, another for general purpose VMs or IaaS, and maybe a different solution for mission critical. Exploring, can you consolidate that and when and why and where do you hit that point, and make sure that you have, common unified experience. That's what HPE is driving, common unified experience no matter where it's running. Edge deployments, core deployments, colo deployments, multi-stack deployments, and I think that's a really important one to look at versus just solving the problem at hand that I got so many cores that are going to be renewed, and I don't want to do that because because there's going to be commercial off-the-shelf apps that right now simply support VMware only, no other, so those are going to stay for a while, and we know that, but we're going to give you the path to automate and surround and cloudify those things. So it's really about the whole ecosystem. I know I've said that a few times, sorry for overusing the word, but the hypervisors are all super mature. I mean, KVM's been around a long time, Hyper-V a long time, all the derivatives. It's not that, it's the rest. It's the rest, and that's got to work for you.
It's absolutely true, and it's complicated, and HPE is well positioned to help develop that transition plan with you. To explore that a little bit more, a couple of our colleagues I'm going to ask to join the stage to kind of give you the perspective from internal to HPE, their perspective on virtualization in their role, and what they're doing with VME. So I'd love to ask Shohei and Dan to join us on the stage. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us today. So I'm going to give you each an opportunity to introduce yourself, share what your role is, and like I said, share a little bit of your perspective on virtualization, transformation, and VME. So Dan, let's start with you.
Sure. So I'm Dan Prorock, and I am the VP of Global IT Infrastructure here at HPE, and I'm responsible for running all that entails in that infrastructure. So those servers, the storage, everything in our hybrid cloud, on-prem, off-prem, and the networking that connects that together.
You're not busy.
No, not at all.
Thank you for joining us. And Shohei?
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Shohei Maruyama. Very difficult to pronounce, probably. But yes, I'm taking care of the cloud and platform practices in HPE service organization globally. And yes, since I'm in the service organization, we take care of the journey, of the current, the platform they have with VMware to the next, the generation platform, next platform they are going to have, with the virtualization, from the assessment, the design, build, the migrate, which, a lot of people have issues with it, and then the operate, and then even the education side. Yes, we do take care of that, regarding related to the virtualization. Yes.
So you're really helping customers plan the entire process, assessing at the beginning. I asked the question of how many people have a really good handle on how big the estate is, how much automation, how much scripting they're dependent on today. You help drive that assessment.
Exactly, Sherry-san. The issue we do see is that many customers do not know those information, and then they identify all those, clarify those. That's the initial work which we usually do. So.
And then from there, you're able to help customers build out a strategy and a plan.
Yes.
And assess the VMware roadmap from where they are today, where VMware is, VME roadmap.
VME, yes.
Apologies, everyone. The VME roadmap, where that roadmap is going relative to the customer strategy.
Yes.
Excellent. So Dan, are we exploring VME?
Absolutely.
Really? Are you aware of all your VMware estate and what you need to actually replace?
Absolutely not. But so we're taking an approach to learn, along the way, so that we can do this in a safe way and explore. So the way we're approaching it is, first and foremost, taking advantage, and as IT infrastructure practitioners, right? I'm responsible for deploying the mission critical applications and keeping the business running, but also doing that within a cost containable envelope. So the way we've been attacking this is first starting with the R&D workloads, which were things that previously were inexpensive or free and are no longer, well, they're quite a bit less than free now. Mm-hmm. And so while it's not a cost save move, it's an enormous cost avoidance move by how we can move rather than just flip the switch and start paying for much more expensive licensing. Also, by definition, they're lower because they're non-production workloads. It's an opportunity to learn and do it in a lower stakes, lower complexity environment. So those are our initial deployments of VME. As we begin to learn more in those environments, then we can start moving into more of the kind of that middle production where test and R&D within IT, which is kind of that middle ground of not quite production, not quite, a little higher stakes, has higher complexity.
Yep.
And we'll start deploying that. And then that should keep us busy for a few months. And the cool thing there is at that point, if you fast forward to where that journey will be in a few months, that'll be the point, now we'll be at that point where we can start exploring the higher stakes, the higher complexity things. We'll have had an opportunity to learn about our scripting and our automation and what works and what doesn't, fix some of those things. And as we need to start migrating the more complex workloads, that's also an interception with the roadmap where those higher end or higher availability features and functions, backup and recovery, will be ready to meet us when we're ready as part of the migration plan.
Absolutely. We're working hand in hand on making sure that's aligned. Now, I know you're also looking at Morpheus. Mm-hmm. Can you share with the audience a little bit what you're doing with Morpheus and how it fits into the...
Sure, so very much the same. And it's, it's the whole stack, really, because I'm not interested in a hypervisor only, right? I'm a VCF customer, so I'm looking at that whole stack. So really shorthand for what I'm talking about we're doing with VME, I'm really thinking about VME plus Morpheus with OpsRamp, and eventually with Zerto as well, and that whole solution, and then wrapping that around what my microsegmentation, what that architecture is going to look like, and the new thing that we're going to land to have a complete VCF takeout solution.
So you're building out your hybrid cloud ops operating model.
Correct.
Love it, love it. So I could ask questions of these folks or chat with them for the next hour. But the intent today is to give you the opportunity to ask the questions that are top of mind for you. So I think there's going to be mics out in the aisle, if not already. And we're going to open it up to you to ask your questions of this panel so that you get your top of mind questions addressed. So who's the first brave person?
Don't be bashful.
Can I ask you to go to one of the mics so the audience can hear you?
There's a mic there, please. Thank you.
Thanks for the great session thus far. I have a question. Other ecosystems have a lot of certified applications, and I haven't seen that with HP VME or Morpheus yet. Are you working on that to have certified apps and be kind of VME certified for Oracle, for SAP, et cetera, et cetera? I still haven't seen that, so.
So we are working on that, and it is published. It's being refreshed on a regular basis. We'll have to get you the link to where it is, but we are working on app certification, hardware certification, interoperability with Dell servers, NetApp storage, Pure storage, and so forth. We have an extensive roadmap for all of the above, and we're publishing, and it's being refreshed regularly. I believe it's on Seismic. But we can get it for you externally as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Any other questions?
It's hard to see, folks.
It is really hard to see.
Jason, you gonna ask a hard question? Andrew, you said you were going to. Aaron?
Well, we put a few questions up on the screen
Yeah.
here just to maybe prompt some thinking, and maybe we can poke at these a little bit. So, Scott, do you want to take one of the questions?
Yeah, this was another one that maybe I was not expecting to be surprised, but after talking to many customers, I found that a lot of folks actually hadn't read their EULA for their VMware environment. So many folks in their upset moments taking legal action, cease and desist letters, all this stuff. But there's a clause in the EULA that says unless the SKUs go away. And so this is why they canceled everything. And so then folks went, what? So they thought they'd get a renewal and all this stuff. So folks kind of were a little bit taken back by that. So, that's really what that's about as a question. And it's a tough conversation when you have to kind of tell a large organization, did you go read where you stand on your enterprise user license agreement? And then they go read it with their legal department and find out they don't quite have the leverage or the renewal capability or the bargaining power. So HPE doesn't operate that way. So really it's about us being flexible and understanding this is a complex time, and as I said this before, we have a ton of empathy for you. We want to help you solve problems. We want to help it so you have an open ecosystem. So that's really what that was about their EULA. So please read EULAs from now on forward. We all do it like yes, 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 yes. I read everything.
So Dan, I'm going to ask you, are you equipped to run workloads across clouds, data centers, and edge?
Yes, but not as seamlessly as I'd like to. So I would say I statically have things that where, we have static environments where some things are in a cloud, but not seamlessly moving between those clouds. And moving between the cloud and the data centers, that's something we're moving towards. But that's, as an infrastructure guy, this is one of those areas where I also need a lot of partnership from my application-minded friends. And doing the application modernization that's necessary for that, because I can build an IT infrastructure that's capable of it, but if the applications haven't been modernized to take advantage of it, then I have a very empty data center.
Absolutely. So Shohei, I'm going to ask you, when you're working with customers, are they planning for their full environment, not just the virtualization layer?
Yes, actually, that question is very tough to, but depending on the customer. But the many cases, yes, when they look at the virtualization, because of the ecosystem around, they need to look at the full environment, and then the full environment, of course, not only just observability, but also the operation and automation, which Sherry, you explained, first, but the automation there, and also some of the cost, FinOps or the security operations they need to look at. So most of the customers, when they just look at starting with the virtualization layer, but at the end, talking about the entire ecosystem and also the stack, and then especially a lot of people, the missing part is that when they look at the entire stack is okay, but the people may not be ready for it. So we need to talk about how they can be reskilled, educated, so that they would be able to run and operate workloads they have. So that's how we are guiding customers to the risk-free journey. So yes.
Excellent. So Scott, I'm going to ask you another question here. We recently introduced PCBE, or Private Cloud Business Edition, with VME.
Yep.
And have you had any customer conversations about that, and how does that actually play into a transformation strategy?
Yeah, we have, and for folks I think folks are somewhat aware that when that solution stack first came to market, it was called Disaggregated HCI, then renamed Private Cloud Business Edition, added a lot more cloud capabilities. We've had many conversations wanting to deploy that at the edge for remote sites, maybe factories, et cetera. Folks like the simplicity of the solution. They now love the fact that there's an alternate virtualization stack in there as well to be able to have choice. Because remember, Morpheus, as well as if you're using Morpheus data as a cloud management platform or as an automation capability, manages all stacks. So far, all the conversations I've had on PCBE are that we're headed in the right direction. We've made great choices on offering capabilities to customers, no matter the deployment methodology. So it's a great question, Sherry. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Dan, maybe I can come back to you again. Are you looking to avoid vendor lock-in? And if so, how are you approaching it?
So that's a really interesting question. I think by definition, I'm as locked into one vendor as anyone possibly could. But what I will say is that it gives me a great opportunity that is and as I mentioned earlier, as new features and functions are coming from HPE solutions, I'm ready to pick those up. So I'll be the pioneer and running those solutions at enterprise scale so that I'm going first, so no one else in this room needs to.
Yeah.
That's excellent. We're happy to partner with you on that. So Scott, I'm going to come back to you. So I think a concern customers have in the transition is, what if their workloads fail? What would you advise on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's about planning, and I think it's been mentioned a few times, is mapping how you ran mission critical and any critical application to the new methodology, and making sure the right capabilities are put in place. And there's a lot of ways to fail, right? There's service outage that can be hardware or network related. There could be software related things, but it also can be, an intrusion event or et cetera. So we look at that holistically and make sure what we're proposing, and Dan spoke to this, looking at proposing it for the right solutions, for the right level of availability, mission criticality, the right level of throughput, the right level of business capability, and the right level of high availability based on where you're at in your applications. And that's always tough organization by organization, because you can have a tier 0 app that's entangled with a tier 4 app, and it just happens. And so, it gives us, back to have a conversation, it gives you an opportunity to take a clean sheet and look at those interdependencies between your applications, inclusive of virtualization and containerization, to go look at it and make sure all those small gray areas are covered. So I think it's a really great question, because we care about running your organizations in where, uptime is everything. Uptime is everything.
It really is. Jason.
Yeah, all right, I'm gonna ask a question because I know a lot of people are thinking this because I've heard them talk about it all week. What does a migration look like for a lot of customers, and how are we kind of helping them go through that and porting over to what we have with Morpheus VME?
So Shohei, do you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. And then a lot of customers do have the questions about the migration. So there are, the proven steps, for the migration to the VME already, VM Essentials already. So the first, we need to understand what workloads, again, everyone says, about the workload, but the workload matters. So that we need to understand, what workloads, what kind of characteristics you have, and then based on those, we would be able to choose, what migration, the approaches and also the methodologies we can take. And then the multiple migration, the methodologies are there. So usually, probably hopefully everyone knows, but the basic one is the image conversion, which is that they basically take the VMware, the VMDK image to the VM Essentials, and then they convert it to the QCOW, which is the KVM based. And then that's the image conversion. And the second approach is the guest OS based migration. So the guest OS based migration, basically putting the agent in the existing the workload, and then taking out the data into the VM Essentials guest OS, the Skeleton guest OS, and then that's already available too. And then the last, we are seeing in the roadmap is that the hypervisor-based, or we call it the VM-based, the migration, so that they basically taking the VMDK snapshot and then sending to the VME, and then the VME would take care of the conversion and also they run the Delta migration there, and then without any downtime, we would be able to have the migrate. So those are the steps, the methodologies we do have, and then based on the characteristics, and then the characteristics of the workload you do have, and also the services you do have, we would be able to choose which one's the right one, for your migration. And then that's, how we engage with the customers and then guide them, for the successful migration. So.
You noted that on the roadmap we have a native migration tool.
Yes.
And that native migration tool will be available in the latter part of July. So you'll be able to pick that up in the July release of VME, and that'll allow you to do bulk migration as you just discussed.
Yes.
So excellent. Another question.
Yeah, thanks for the great content so far. It's been a fantastic conference. One piece that we work with, I work for a HPE reseller and technology consulting company, and we've been having these conversations with a lot of our customers across all of our markets. And one piece that we're trying to solve for is VDI, and I've heard it talked about a little bit throughout the conference, but is HP working specifically with Omnissa on a Horizon port? And I guess a second question and follow-up would be, are you guys exploring kind of a training and certification curriculum specifically around the VME solution to kind of help, customers and partners kind of get the specific training and certification credentials?
Love that question. Yeah. Do you want to speak to that one?
Yes. So I think first question was about the VDI and also the relationship with Omnissa, and regarding the testing, with Omnissa, and also there are two parts. The first part is of course as an alliance. Are we working with Omnissa and then for the Horizon, the migration to the VM Essentials, and then the answer is yes. And then yes, we are working with them to have the joint, the value proposition, with the Omnissa on, VM Essential. And you probably see the update on the seismic and the website shortly. So that's one case. And then technically, have we done the testing already internally? And then the answer is also actually yes, that we have done the testing of the Omnissa. And then it worked. And then technically it's already validated. The second question you had was about the education and also the training. It was very, very timely, the question, and then I really appreciate it. But if you look at the website now, we do have the VM Essential, the administrator, the training already in the HPE education the portal. So actually it was I think last week or so it was updated. So that's very, very timely question, and thank you so much. So yes.
And for folks who didn't catch the translation or maybe forgot, Omnissa is the software solution formerly known as Horizon. So lots of folks were using Horizon, lots of folks were using Citrix, and a few other solutions in between. So as Sherry alluded to before, we know we have to have hardware compatibility lists and certification. We know we got to go to application providers. We know we got to go to VDI providers, and everything in between. That's just a journey and a roadmap to make that happen over time. So thank you for the question.
That's a great question. Thank you. We have another question?
Yes. Hello. I have stage fright, but I will ask my questions anyway, and the light doesn't help too much.
Yep.
But yeah. So I will have two questions. The first one is, let's say there's a problem during the migration process. There's some glitch or something, specific to our applications. Is there any way to somehow roll back to our original VMware setup? This is my first question. My second question is, I work for energy distribution company, and we run critical infrastructures. And now we will be deploying a very important new application for utilities, and this could cause big disruptions if you make even minor changes. So the big challenge and the big conversation we have right now in-house is whether we should be changing our VMware installations, because now we will have many unknowns with the new application. Would it be wise to add even more unknowns by changing our virtualization environment to HP VM Essentials? So, would you have anything that you would like to say which, may help to alleviate our concerns on that matter? I know you're not going to have, specific, very, specific answers, but I just wanted to learn about your opinions on those questions.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'll start and then other folks can add in. Remember, the guest OS is still the guest OS.
Yeah.
Where you're running your application, everything that's in there, whether it's Windows or Linux, that guest OS is the same guest OS. That doesn't change. So that all the work you've done to make sure that workload's compatible with all the versioning and stuff, that's all there. It's the back-end binaries and stuff. And yes, you can roll back. The source is not lost. And so we've thought about that. That's pretty common, so I appreciate the question, but it's not, it seems scary, but at the same time, folks have moved between many different ecosystems of hypervisors for a really long period of time. This just happens to be one that maybe folks didn't necessarily have in their portfolio of solutions, but we've got strong professional services to help. We've got the knowledge to help. We got the engineering to help and the tools. Because remember, even VME, it sees vSphere and Morpheus VM simultaneously. You can leave the VMs over there if you want, and when you get to the confidence level, trying, as Dan talked about, certain environments and then move. And now, as Sherry was talking about with a high-speed data mover coming, you can move at scale. And so I think you'll see us, we've approached that problem. It's a really great question. And again, I said this in the beginning, it's about risk mitigation. Risk mitigation, we would never propose something risky in your environment, and we would always have a backup plan to be able to roll back. Especially in critical infrastructure, I'm very familiar with your world. I spent a lot of time in my career in that space, so I really appreciate the questions.
Thank you.
Other folks, please answer.
Yeah, so actually Scott-san already answered the most, but yes, from my side, if I can add again, the good thing about this solution is that not just the looking at the virtualization, but the transition is already considered in. So that's why the VM Essential is there, and then the Morpheus is integrated in, so that you'd be able to manage, as he said, both VMware and also the VM Essentials, and then even more.
Yes.
So not only you are concerned migration in the failure, not only there, again, it is already managed, and then the existing guest OS would not be harmed or damaged at all, so that you'd be able to have any time rollback, and also the migration-wise risk is not there, because the service-wise, you'd be able to still, provide it, with the existing virtual machine. So this, solution is, again, please don't consider it, as just, the virtualization, the product, but the entire ecosystem, for it, core is already built in. So that's, how you can see it, and also the kind of see the risk mitigation, for the transition. So,
thank you.
You did a great job even with stage fright.
Yes, thank you for the questions. Appreciate it.
I'm wondering if the VM Essentials and Morpheus whatnot type software is going to be supported on our Synergy blades. We have quite a few of them.
Yes, that's part of the roadmap. That's part of the roadmap for compatibility testing.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's more on the DL side still first, and then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, our intention is to actually have an incredibly broad interoperability matrix to address all the different things out in the field. We started with some of our own HPE technology, but as I noted, we're extending immediately. We've already qualified Dell servers, NetApp storage, and Pure storage, and the list is continuing to grow.
And just to add to that, we love Synergy. Synergy is around 11,000 companies using Synergy. It was our first infrastructure as code platform, but there is some work to do to integrate the Fabric Manager and stuff. It's not about the compute module itself can't run VME, because that's just a 1 or 2 socket server. It's the rest of the piece. We want to make sure that your operational flows, especially if they're plumbed into Ansible or Terraform or plugged into a Snow integration, that all flows, and that we've done the work and tested versus just saying it works. So we want to be really, really mindful and respectful about what we've said works, and that you can have high confidence in it when we've published it.
Other questions? Got someone coming.
Hi there. So coming to Las Vegas has been very timely for us. We're at a point, our VMware license expires October 31st of this year, and we were pretty smart because we thought we would buy and renew it for a year. And now I found out yesterday that I'm going to have to renew it for 3 years. So that means that we're going to be moving away from VMware this year, which is terrifying because we hadn't yet decided how we were going to move forward. So being here and seeing you folks and listening to this is great. So on top of that change, as you mentioned, as somebody mentioned, Omnisa is now running the VDI solution, and I want to move away from that as well. So over the past few months, folks of my team have been investigating other solutions, other hypervisor solutions, and there's a lot of momentum to go with Hyper-V. And while we were investigating that, we discovered the Azure Virtual Desktop, which sort of presented itself as a great option or alternative to the VDI solution, the Omnisa VDI solution. So what we discovered is that the Microsoft Azure Desktop works well with Hyper-V, obviously. So with VME, will there be a virtual desktop solution that might make its way into that?
Do you want to take that?
I'm not quite sure we've approached that question yet. Great question, thank you. So I think those are still on our consideration bucket, right? We know Hyper-V, we support Hyper-V, Morpheus supports Hyper-V. We've deployed also a lot of Azure Local, formerly Azure Tech HCI, which is Azure VMs. So we're in that loop, and so we have part of the solution that already supports Hyper-V based environments.
So sorry, just to be clear, I'm not stuck on Hyper-V. I'm ready to go with VME.
Okay, great.
I mean, I've drank the Kool-Aid here.
Awesome, love that, thank you.
But now I'm realizing, wait, I hadn't even thought of VDI. So is there something that will become part of VME that is like Azure Virtual Desktop?
That, I believe, is part of the roadmap. I unfortunately can't give you a timeline or answer it directly, but our product management, VP of Product Management is here today, Rajiv, and I can connect you with him, and we can explore that together.
Okay, great.
Yeah, if please, we'll get your contact information and follow up with you immediately, see where that sits in there. And that's what all these sessions are about, to challenge us on what you guys need. If we can't think of everything and how fast we can go, but we really appreciate the question because it's a really super important one. Azure desktops are common, right? They're very common.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's a good point that Scott makes. I mean, do challenge us. Bring these things forward so we have a sense of what challenges you're facing, and that can help inform us on our roadmap as well. So appreciate the question. And if you stop up afterwards, we'll get your contact information.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the question.
I think he gave us the challenge. He needs it by October.
I heard that, by October.
I heard that too.
There we go.
Hello.
Hello.
I've got a few questions that I've been jotting down. One was around the realization of your earlier comments about the ecosystem. And as I was talking to the various people on the floor, hearing about the different licensing versus Morpheus and OpsRamp and Zerto and all of the different products, are you positioning the overall system, the ecosystem, at a certain price point compared to VMware's solution?
Yeah, so and maybe lost in the keynote. So the integrated suite was announced here at the Discover conference of those technology solution stacks you're talking about. VME comes along with it. So OpsRamp, the hybrid automation suite was announced. So that's integrated and tightly bundled from a capability perspective. It'll also be tightly bundled from a licensing. Well, I would tell you, in all the conversations we've had with over 1,000 companies so far looking at this, we are very commercially viable. I'll put it that way. So it's not, we are amazingly there. Because remember, we're socket licensing. You want to do a 256 core part, you want to do a 2 core part. We're not core licensing. So we really have addressed that head on. And then we announced, as I said, and we can come back and we'll follow up with you on this. I've been involved in some of these where we've bundled it and put a 5-year capability to do all the automation, all the observability, and all the virtualization in front of a few customers, and they were shocked on how affordable it was. So I think we'll rise to the occasion there. We'll just follow up with you personally, if you don't mind, and make sure we understand what you're trying to do and that we've mapped it correctly.
And let me add on quickly before you get to your next question. So Antonio put it up in the sphere. We also shared it on Tuesday. We are 90% less than the competition for VME. So that's VME standalone.
Yeah.
And then we are also bundling, we have our Cloud Ops software suite, which Scott was referring to, that includes Morpheus VME, OpsRamp, and Zerto. And that has outstanding pricing as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm within healthcare. So I know there was an earlier comment around certifying different applications. Obviously, Epic is a big one for us. Is there any kind of known investigation as to certifying that platform?
Yep, so that's just in the backlog. And again, we can chat more about what you're doing there. But we have a long backlog, and that's part of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. There was a earlier session. There was a what's coming next, and just trying to get my head around what kind of a timing around the roadmap, as far as your different releases, if that's being kind of communicated anywhere, so that can help with the planning process for customers.
So we have a very extensive roadmap. And that is our releases right now are monthly. We are updating the roadmap on a regular basis. So either your AMPS partner or your HPE salesperson should be able to connect you to the monthly or to the roadmap so you understand what's coming. What you're referring to and what's coming next, there's some big rocks that I was going to mention that I think a lot of people are curious about. We already talked about the migration and the Bolt migration tool coming at the latter part of July. Another thing that people are very interested in is the backup strategy. We announced our relationship with Veeam on Tuesday, and we also have relationships with Commvault and Cohesity for backup. Another thing is people are very interested in is the Metro cluster, and that's in the end of the year, the beginning of next year that will be coming. Microsegmentation, we have a phased strategy for that we can discuss as well. And then containers are another thing people are very interested in, and that is into 2026. But this stuff, we have an external roadmap that your salesperson or your contact person should be able to keep you up to speed on.
Thank you.
Just to add on to that, I sat one-on-one with another healthcare provider this morning, and they adopted our HP Aruba Networking CX10K switches. Those support private VLANs and dynamic segmentation to give you what's needed for an east-west flow and stuff already. And then we'll, as Sherry said, we'll further enhance that to find granularity over time. But that was just an awesome solution for them to give what was needed in their space. So definitely please have a conversation with us, and happy to connect with you and talk through this. We want to solve it for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate the questions. Hi.
Hello. And you may have touched on some of this with your last answer, but I'm just, a lot of us are considering different KVMs, and as you mentioned, it is a pretty mature space, and I'm curious, besides kind of reaching feature parity with VDIs and some of those other things, is there specific things that VME is doing where you are driving innovation, new technologies, better integrations with the other HP stack?
So I'm having a hard time hearing him. Can you?
Yeah, so I think the question is, are we doing further innovation to drive into the rest of the HPE stack? Yes, so like further innovation to drive into the GreenLake platform, not the GreenLake consumption, the GreenLake platform for lots of capabilities. Marketplace capabilities too for backup data set testing, but deep integration into other areas of the portfolio like Compute Ops Manager, what we're doing with the control plane, DSCC Data Ops Manager, what we're doing and all of that. That journey's been underway for a long time. And so I think you'll see us do some areas. In fact, if you were to map, we actually have some areas that were superior to VCF on in some capabilities. So it's a really, really good question. It is our goal to provide the innovation that you would expect from us in a way that solves problems and simplifies how you deploy. So remote deployment, simplification, backup and recovery integration, as Sherry alluded to. And then you get into, this is where kind of a follow-on to the question that was asked before around migration. There's the migration of the virtualization tier, but then there's like, how do you map automation? How do you, if you're using Site Recovery Manager, what do you do for that? So there's all those pieces too we're addressing in the ecosystem play with tight innovation to what we're doing on the rest of the portfolio as well, including the private cloud suite, really deep integration to the private cloud suite to make that super simple out of the box to be able to deliver full observability, full automation, full multi-stack. Because in a lot of cases, folks will have some VMEs, they'll still have vSphere left over, they could have some Red Hat OCP, they probably have bare metal too. Automate it all. Deep integration into that, as well as you'll see over time integration into things like ILO 7 capabilities with security, additional security functionality as well. It just takes a bit of time to leap there, and as Sherry said, monthly releases, big, bold quarterly releases, I think we're moving really fast.
We are moving very fast. And I just want to also just kind of put it all together as well. So VME is essentially part of Morpheus. Morpheus is part of our hybrid cloud or cloud ops software suite. Full integration with Morpheus, OpsRamp, Zerto, bringing that together. Cloud Physics is part of that.
Yes.
Looking at the sustainability insight center that we have on the platform. We're really, that whole cloud ops suite that we're talking about is really about bringing all of that together to give you the tools to operate in your hybrid environment, that hybrid operating model, to give you that complement of tools fully integrated.
Yeah, and I think what to add on to what Sherry's saying, typical VM environments are sort of set and forget it. You saw in the demos, in the keynote and stuff, dynamic AI ops automation to load balance, determine that there's problems in observability, react to them, of course, under your control once you gain confidence. It's the same thing. I had several conversations this week. Years back, no one would vMotion in a production environment. Now you would never not. So think about where AI ops can take you in these environments, because we all have the tickets where someone says something slow. You have no idea where it's at, right? So we're going to take this to the next level, and virtualization is just a landing zone that runs a workload that's important, but it's looking through the whole stack. We have really robust, innovative roadmap to really tightly align that. And partner, right? There's partners out there too that we have to work with in this space. So it's a really great question. Thank you for it.
Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, I always like an opportunity to plug innovation and what's going on. So, with VME, for us in the R&D space, it's a great platform that we're already, planning even future work on. So, little plug, we've got a demo here on the show floor talking about confidential computing and where that's going with VME. Really exciting, I think, in terms of, these on-prem, hybrid, cloud edge environments as well. An additional layer of security that I think is unique that we're going to bring to the market through VME. So it'd be great to connect after this and show you where that's at.
And for those of you who don't know Andrew, he runs HPE Labs and all the innovation that's happening in the HPE Labs. So great person to chat with as we wrap. Anybody else?
Other questions? A few more? A few minutes left?
So I guess I'd like to kind of wrap it up for everybody. Our goal here was to give you some insights into what other of your colleagues are doing in the industry, some of the things that they're experiencing, some of the questions they've had, the journey they go through from doing the assessment of their environment and what they have in their environment to creating plans and architectures, migration strategies and so forth. That it's really much bigger than just a virtualization shift, but there's a whole ecosystem associated with it, excuse me, and that we, HPE, are fully committed to helping you through that journey, helping you work through that, excuse me, that ecosystem, and building out your strategy and plan for how you're going to make that step forward. We're here to help. We are establishing a set of partners on our own side. We're eating our own dog food internally.
Yes. My boss likes to say, drink our own champagne.
We're drinking our own champagne, yes. Internally at HPEIT, we are also doing the same in our own hybrid cloud labs. We're migrating 20,000 VMs there. So you're getting a really great internal test environment as well to harden it ourselves, because we face the same challenges you do. So I'd like to give Scott the opportunity to give any final thoughts on it, but I want to thank you personally for your time today, for your questions, and please know that we're here to support you.
No, thank you, Sherry, and thank you, everybody. We sincerely appreciate you spending time and the questions that were asked. I would just, challenge us, go have a conversation with, go reach out to us via your partner, whoever you interact with to get, your bridge to HPE. We are happy to talk you through a transparent conversation and how to take a phased approach that's low risk, that mitigates what you're doing, that gives you the flexibility and opportunity to write a better future. That's really what we're about. We've always been a company of openness. I think you can see we've leaned in on some big rock areas to solve big problems for customers, but we want to be super open. Please have a conversation with us. You can reach me or any of us, and we'll have a conversation with you, get to the right folks, to the experts, and also bridge you with other customers who've already taken the journey. We'll make those connections happen so you can talk to them about things that they struggled with or didn't struggle with, and all that, because it's really important that we make you successful. My most important goal.
Okay. Stay on our show. So hey, I didn't give you the opportunity. Any closing
Just
comments?
like to thank everyone for coming today. Now is a great opportunity. There's a lot of changes, and I want to remind everyone, we're not here to do this alone. We're going forward. I'm going forth as a pioneer. I'm looking for you all to come with me.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry-san, and also thank you so much for coming. And yes, the journey is, yes, scary, always, but as a service organization and as a HPE, we would be there, and also we have already took the steps together with some of you, and also hopefully more together with you. So just reach out to us anytime, and then we would work with you. So.
All right. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you,
Safe
everyone.
travels home.